Next, they invented the first engine-powered ships, obviously steam-powered.
Oh, wow.
Ships' propellers,
Wow.
steel ships, the steam turbine, initially for powering ships, but now it powers...
Hello guys, welcome to our channel. Today we are going to watch what did the British ever do for us. And I think so he's an American man, but I think so we also can comment on this video because we too live in India, and the thing is we too have seen or heard and even like read a lot about what was the British Empire and how they did whatever they did to India. And also like I remember like we Indians saying that okay, like British left railways for us,
yeah.
British left this and that for us. So there were some things. So all in all, what did the British ever do for us scientifically? Let's watch this
Video.
What did the British, ever do for us scientifically?
Apart from the sanitation, the medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, a freshwater system of public health, what have the Romans ever done for us?
Oh, this is that movie. Yeah. Life of Brian.
Nowadays,
Yes.
our education system regards the British as brutal colonists who enslaved populations, subjugated the
Yes.
world. Out of roughly 200 countries in the world today, the Brits colonised, settled or invaded about 90% of them. Which I think is fairly impressive, or at least I think the Romans would think it was impressive.
Yeah.
But would we have been better off without those bastard Brits?
Oh.
Now, as it happens, they may have some redeeming features.
Like
If you look at their scientific contribution at least. Now this is a slightly different video to normal, and I'm going to talk about the British scientific and technological achievements and inventions, even though I could mention trivial things like the British invention of some of the best countries in the world, like Australia,
Oh.
Canada, Singapore, New Zealand, America. Well, maybe not invented, but they were certainly highly influenced.
even
influenced.
Singapore is not
Or even
invented
the
by
only
them.
decent country in the Middle East, which is Israel, courtesy of Mr. Balfour,
Yeah.
and many other countries that have a great deal to be proud of, such as Malaya, South Africa, Fiji, Kenya, Botswana, Sri Lanka,
And
India, all wonderful British creations.
But we
We're
were a country
science
before
channel,
British also.
Yeah.
and we're going to look at science. Now, the list is long of scientific achievements, and I'm only going to look at the really big ones and some of the more important ones.
Ready.
Let's start. Let's start with transport and engines.
Railways.
So the British
Yeah.
invented the railways, steel tracks, railway locomotives. In fact, wherever the British went, railways followed. So they put in railways in Germany, India,
India.
South America, and of course everybody copied that.
Yeah.
Then we have the modern bicycle.
Bicycle.
Initially called the Rover Safety Bicycle, apparently. Chain drive, caster steering, and relatively small wheels. Invented by the Rover Company. In fact, in Poland, the word for bicycle is Rover. And yes, it's the same
Land
company that
Rover.
makes Land Rovers.
Oh, nice.
Now, the British obviously invented the first engine.
And also an interesting thing is that Land Rover is now owned by an Indian company today.
Yeah.
It's the steam engine, and that broke us free from back-breaking animal and human-powered devices. Now, while the British were inventing the steam engine, they of course had to invent the piston, and more importantly, the piston ring that seals the piston, a truly remarkable technological invention which is even now being developed further. And the piston ring is the basis for petrol engines and diesel engines, in fact, virtually every engine. So no Brits, no engines. Next, they invented the first engine-powered ships, obviously
Oh,
steam-powered.
wow.
Ships'
Oh,
propellers,
wow.
steel ships, the steam turbine, initially for powering ships, but now it powers the generators in every coal electricity generating plant and every nuclear generating plant. So that's about 50% of all the electricity that's generated today, all courtesy of Mr.
Sir
Parsons.
Charles.
Then we have the jet engine. Yes, the Germans independently invented it in the Second World War.
Oh.
The turboprop engine, invented by the Brits, the first turboprop aircraft. So if you don't fly in an aeroplane powered by a jet engine, which was largely due to the Brits, it's a turboprop aeroplane, which was invented by the Brits.
Brits.
A
And
lot.
of course the
So many
turboprop
inventions.
is the basis of the gas turbine,
Oh.
which is used to generate another 20% of the world's electricity. We also have the modern car layout.
Mr. Bean.
Front drive, transverse engine, independent suspension, CV joints on the front wheels. Before that, companies tried all sorts of arrangements. So, for example, the Germans famously had the engine and everything at the back, but since 1959, most cars use the mini minor equivalent.
Yeah.
Ever been on a vehicle that uses steel wheels?
Steel
It's pretty
wheels?
uncomfortable. But don't worry, the Brits invented the pneumatic tyre.
Oh.
So it looks like the British have invented pretty much everything that runs on the road.
Yes.
They didn't
Wow.
invent the road, that's just about it.
I never knew that.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
they did. Tarmac roads, or tarmacadam, was invented by a Scot and a Welshman. Then we have steel bridges.
Bridges.
And here's a very interesting one, the modern traffic roundabout in the 1960s. Now, you might think that
Oh.
roundabouts have been around since way before the 1960s, but the Brits had the inspired idea of changing the rules for
Wow.
the roundabout.
And also about the steel bridges, like in India also, like in near to my city, there is a city called Bharuch. In there also they have a bridge over Narmada. That is a British time bridge. It was
Oh.
built in 1916 and 17. It is still working. And now I think so they have put a stop on it, and we have built our own Indian bridge, and that is a very big 4-5 lane bridge. The British one was just a 2-lane bridge, just for going. Of course, at that point of time there was not
Yeah.
much traffic, but still that bridge stood the wrath of the time for 100 years.
Oh my god.
So that
this
was
is
the
crazy.
quality of engineering of I think so British people, and like this is what I like about, and like we remember, like I remember myself like learning in the textbook, and I was like British people were so bad
So bad, of
because
course.
they did this to us,
Because
that
it
to
was
us.
all and torture. They have tortured us because we were always talking about the freedom
Yes.
we always wanted and how they tortured. But I only read about this at the beginning. He said railways. I knew only about the railways. So they left the railways and then other people copied too. But that was like the best thing they have given to us till
And
now.
also, like, but
he is sharing a lot more.
Actually, and what I think today is like comparing them to Mongols and this and that is not right, because Mongols, when you read about them, they just were on a spree to kill everyone that comes their way. But he and Britishers were like they were much better version. And like if you give us a chance, like okay, who you want to be ruled by, British people or Mughals? 100% British people.
Why would you want to be ruled by someone?
No, if there is an option, like you have to
Oh.
be, because we were ruled by both.
Yeah, we were.
First we were ruled by Mughals, and then we were ruled by British people. So like if we compare that, then in Mughal era we get a lot of good architecture.
Architecture.
But in
But it's not beneficial. Like it's good for like beauty and so what it gives to people.
yes,
Yeah.
that is the thing. And in British era we got things that can be replicated, and like bridges, railways, and all
Be
this and that.
useful, like for the normal people.
Yeah.
In other words, yield to enter, which massively increases the efficiency of the roundabout. Then we have the cat's eye reflector.
Huh?
Caterpillar tracks, which the Brits invented just before they invented the tank.
Tank.
So there's much more we could talk about in terms of transport technology, but we must move on to other industrial and technological stuff. Now, of course, Britain famously started the
Yeah,
Industrial
we read
Revolution
about
in the
this.
18th and 19th century, and it's debated why it started in the United Kingdom, but clearly there was something special going on that made that spark. And of course, it started in the textile and agricultural industry. In the textiles, they invented the flying shuttle, powered looms, the spinning mill for making threads. In fact, if you didn't have the Brits, you don't have the very fine modern clothing which we have now, which is also incredibly cheap compared with what it used to be.
The power
In the
looms.
agricultural industries, there are all sorts of mechanical devices like the mechanical seed drill, the haymaking threshing machine, but also really important things like phosphate fertilizer production, selective breeding.
Oh.
But that's just the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. If you're going to have an Industrial Revolution, you need a big build buildings, and so the British gave us Portland cement,
Portland
a revolutionary type of cement.
Oh.
Where would we be without it? Then we
What
have
is
things
that?
like steel boring machines, which led to the steel, the modern lathe, which is ubiquitous in metal cutting. Hyper-accurate machines for measuring things, the micrometer, for instance.
Micro?
You cannot have modern engineering unless you have hyperfine methods for measuring things. We have stainless steel, the production of polyethylene,
Oh.
very famous practice, plastic used in just about everything. The steel hammer for forging steel and making it much stronger.
Oh.
The Bessemer steel process, the first mass production of steel effectively, and then the mass production of glass using the now ubiquitous virtually tin flotation method. All right, let's go a little bit electrical. So the first
So many
long-distance
advancements.
communication cables were invented by the Brits,
Oh.
the coaxial cable. This was used for underwater cables to link the UK to America and other places.
Now we use that for
The
internet.
first intercontinental communication, the birth of the internet in a sense. It was the first time that we could communicate all around the world. The telephone, Alexander Graham Bell was a Scotsman. Television, liquid crystal,
Oh.
cavity magnetron.
Oh.
You've never heard of the cavity? It's in your microwave. But
Really?
probably more importantly, the first radars, to a large extent, used the cavity magnetron, which
Wow.
is a revolution.
Oh, wow.
Then if we go a little bit medical, we've got CAT scanners, ultrasound scanners,
Oh.
the first town to have chlorinated water. How about the first electronic programmable computer to crack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen this image, right? In computer
Accurate
textbook.
navigation using highly accurate clocks, the chronometers,
Chronometer.
and the first workable atomic clock. Then we have the
Atomic
World
clock,
Wide
what is
Web,
that?
a gas stove, tin cans, and a really big one. I know you've been wondering where I get to this one. An alarm clock that makes tea.
What?
Again, I could have added many, many
I
more
want that.
things, but
Yeah.
Let's go on to
But you don't
fundamental
drink tea.
science, the stuff
But still
that
I want that. Cool.
all other science and technology actually depends upon. But before we do that, maybe just like and subscribe. How about the discovery of the proton, neutron,
and electron.
The three building blocks of, well, frankly, just about everything.
Wow.
All discovered by Brits. And the Brits also discovered the opposite of matter, which is antimatter,
Antimatter.
by Paul Dirac. And more recently, the last particle in the standard physics model of just about everything, the Higgs boson, which was proposed by Peter Biggs.
So
Now let's go a
many
little bit
discoveries.
bigger, but not a great deal bigger. The atom, the model of the atom with a hard nucleus with the electrons flying around, was essentially discovered by the British. And I'm being a little bit loose there because there is a famous New Zealander involved with this, but frankly in those days Kiwis were basically Brits. What about biology? Well, in my view, the two biggest advances in biology were both discovered by Brits. The first one is Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. And then you have the discovery of the structure of DNA at Cambridge University.
Oh, structure
Fundamental
of DNA.
molecular biology of which the whole DNA revolution has been based on. And yes, I know Watson was an American and Wilkins was a Kiwi. Anyway, of course, the discovery of the structure meant this explosion in growth of the whole DNA industry, effectively, such as DNA fingerprinting, now invented by the Brits. Now let's go back to more basic, very fundamental, possibly more important medicine. We have antiseptics, antibiotics,
Oh wow.
Wow.
all three invented by Brits.
Oh,
But let's go back to physics.
This is
now. So we
changing
have
my mind completely.
Yeah.
laws of motion, Newton's laws of gravity.
Newton's law.
Where would we be without Sir Isaac Newton? We essentially couldn't predict anything. Back on to the physics, the laws of optics and the way that radio waves travel, light, the laws of electromagnetic propagation in signals and wires, Scotsman James Clerk Maxwell's. You don't have any mobile phones or computers or communication cables without Maxwell. And then we have electromagnetic induction from Michael Faraday's. If you don't
Michael
understand magnetic induction, there are no electric motors, there's no electric generators. Basically, the whole backbone of the electricity system, you owe it to the Brits.
Everything we owe it to the British.
Or in mathematics, and there are a lot here, so I'm going to pick the really big one, which is the invention of calculus. Yes, there was another guy called Leibniz who also invented it at the same time, but essentially Newtonian calculus is at the basis of a huge amount of advanced science of engineering. It's as fundamental as algebra and arithmetic. Now, this is not complete. There are literally a zillion other things that the Brits have contributed to. Actually, there is just one more.
What?
The flushing loo.
Huh?
Flushing loo?
The flush.
Now, obviously, much of what those British scientists
said
did
loo.
was based on other scientists from lots of other countries, and the Brits were just part of this magnificent thing which we call Western civilization. Of course, there were French and there were Germans, and the scientific development and advancement then spread to the United States and now to the Far East. But the contribution of the Brits were utterly fundamental on so many levels. Now, without those advancements, our lives would be short, harsh, and frankly just bloody horrible. The world's population would still be about 1 billion, which is what it was in about 1800, rather than the roughly 8 billion that it is today without that wonderful science and technology. Now, if you add up all the bad things that the Brits may have done, the Amritsar massacre, the Bengal famine, and all the other bad things that happened, albeit only occasionally considering the attitudes of the times. But even if you add all those up, it's not a drop in the bucket compared with what has been achieved and the lives that have saved. How many lives, how many babies, children, were saved by antibiotics, antiseptics, clean water, or the uses of electricity, communications and transport? Famines are effectively a thing of the past because, well, for one reason, we can ship food around from one place to another very, very easily. Now look, it turns out that I was born in England, and even though I'm an Aussie, so I am biased. But I don't think it makes sense to be proud of what your ancestors did or were unless there's some evidence that you carry on those ideas, values and traditions. But even if you don't measure up to those ancestors or other people's ancestors, it's just bad form not to appreciate what those people did for us. The contribution of the Brits was truly incredible, and we should all be grateful that they came along and did more than virtually any other group to pull humanity out of the appalling, difficult lives that existed before the 1800s.
This video was completely, mind-changing, because yes, I was watching it and I also had a lot of grudges with the Brits, and now I can say I feel like they are not as that bad because what we consider, and the way he was saying it, the Amritsar and the Jallianwala Bagh massacre and also the Bengal massacre were things, and I don't think so they were a drop in the bucket. They were very, very big things in our history, and I think so it is a very big problem. And also the thing is we have to see that British Empire was taking all the money from all these peoples, from India and from all the other countries, and then pumping it out to this people and then to their own country. And when that happens, so you have a very good flourished home country, and then you are able to think all of these things. So if compare it to with America, America would have done it, or compare it with India, reverse, India would have conquered the whole world, then India had so many people, they might have thought into it, and we might have created a lot of things. So it is good to say that that the British did good also and they were bad also. So it is not good to tell them just they were the worst and this and that, but it is not also good to consider them that they were the saints and they did all those things.
Yeah, from childhood it has been said to me that they are bad, and even if you talk more in English except your own mother tongue, your own language, we speak in Hindi, so they used to say, why are you speaking their language? Because there was so much hatred and pain of that, because we have heard the stories how was that time and what was happened, and India, Pakistan and a lot of stuff. So we only know about the bad thing, that they ruled on us, they tortured on us, and they made us poor, they looted us. But after watching this video, my perspective is totally shifted, because I was totally unaware of this, that they have this phenomenal contribution. See, if we know their bad sides, that is we know, and this video provides us that the good sides of that contribution, and that is still useful.
Actually, so what do you guys think about it? Do let us know in the comment section below. So do like, share and
subscribe.
Bye.